like to call the City Commission meeting here on Thursday, July 18th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the Johnson City Commission Chambers Municipal and Safety Building. Here we have Minister Georgita Washington from Thankful Baptist Church to lead the invocation. I invite you all to stand and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening to everyone in the Commission Chambers and those who are joining us virtually. Thank you for this opportunity to invoke our Lord's presence to our meeting tonight. If we may bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for the blessings of today. I thank you so much for the blessing of today. And we ask right now, Lord, that you just send your presence among us and let it dwell amongst all who are involved in the business of this city, running this city. Let your presence be felt in all the decisions, the discussions, and the eventual outcomes of tonight's meeting. We thank you and we praise you. It's in Jesus' name that I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Vice Mayor, the first item for your consideration is item 3.1. Consider the approval of the minutes for the regularly scheduled City Commission meeting held on Thursday, June the 20th, 2024.
Move approval. Second.
Ms. Laus, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
The next item on your agenda is a presentation of the Government Finance Officers Association, the GFOA Distinguished Budget Award to the City of Johnson City for fiscal year 2023-2024. We have our Budget Director, Dustin Thompson, here to receive that award. And this is a pretty big deal. To get this budget award, they'll be able to probably tell you how long it's been since the city has received this, but it's just been through their hard work, their dedication, working with all the departments, all the directors to compile this and bring it together. So it's a good thing. So I'd ask Vice Mayor Murphy and Assistant City Manager Steve Willis if you would go down front to make this presentation.
Got a little something to read before we present the award, if that's okay with everyone. I will say that the Government Finance Officers Association, also known as GFOA, established the Distinguished Budget Award in 1984 to encourage and assist state and local governments to prepare budget documents of the highest quality that reflect both transparency and best practices in budget preparation. To earn this recognition, budget documents must meet program criteria and excel as a policy document, financial plan, operations guide, and communication tool. Johnson City is one of 14 municipalities across the state of Tennessee to receive this award for the review period. The city last received this award in 1998. So it has been over 26 years since we received this award. And so today we present this award and we celebrate this occasion. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you so much. As the Vice Mayor said, it's been over 26 years since we've received this award. And I want to recognize a few folks. This is not my award. This is the city's award, and I want to recognize the people that really made it happen. Samantha Rivera, former budget analyst, she really led the charge on this. And then J.T. McSpadden and Sarah Nobles and Nick Harrison from the Communications and Marketing Department. They really pulled the document together, and I want to say a special thank you to them.
Well, Dustin, you're too humble tonight. It is a team effort without question, but the budget process annually, to me, is a huge project. And the success of that project, it must have a leader in order to be successful, and you have led that process. And we are extremely proud of you, your efforts, all the team that contributed to this, and we're very proud of you for bringing this budget award back to us as a city. So congratulations.
Yeah, I would just like to say, and you did all of this in the midst of a software conversion that the city was going through that was not easy. You know, and I know how hard everybody worked, not only in your department, but also in finance, and you guys have really pulled it together. I think, you know, I want all citizens to know what a good, strong financial position the city is in, and it's to the thanks of good management and for the services that help us track everything. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That's what we needed, a picture of us.
Congratulations. Vice Mayor, the next item on the agenda is 5.1 under licenses. It's a vehicle for hire application for the certificate of necessity, Miss Irene Lewis, and this requires a public hearing, and I feel like the applicant may be in the audience.
Yes, if we could, the applicant, please come to the podium. Good afternoon.
Good
Good
afternoon.
evening, rather. If you will, please state your name and your address.
My name is Irene Lewis. I live at 2108 Valley Lane here in Johnson City.
All right. Have you read Title 15 and agreed to obey the rules and regulations for motor vehicles?
Yes.
All right. This agenda calls for public hearing.
It does, yes, sir.
So,
So if you could open the public hearing on this item.
okay. At this time, we'll open the floor up for public hearing. Seeing there are none, we will close the floor for public hearing.
Move approval.
Second.
Ms. Laus, if you will, please call the roll.
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
You want to tell us a little bit about your business?
Well, I've been working at Kroger's for 25 years. I'm 73 years old now, and I want to retire, but I don't want to give up. I want to keep going. So I figure a taxi will be perfect for me, and it's much needed here in Johnson City. So I think that would just be great for me to do. Good
Well, we
luck.
wish you well.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor, there were no one who signed up for public comments on the agenda items.
Thank you.
So the next item for your consideration is the consent agenda.
All right, I'll turn to my right, see if we have any.
I don't have anything to pull.
Okay, turn to my left. Commissioner Hunter?
No, I'm good.
Well, I'll do all the pulling now, all right? I'm going to pull 7.1.3 only because I want Judge Green to come up. I'd also like to pull 7.1.5 and if we could, on 7.3.1, just get a real quick overview. I think it's important for the public to understand some of the safety changes and things like that we're going to be making in the
Absolutely.
commission chambers. And that'll do it. I'll stop there.
All right, so 7.1.3, 7.1.5,
And 7.3.1.
7.3.1. All right.
So the first item is, got some technical problems.
Okay. Sorry about that. I get the big one.
So the first item is 7.1.3, consider approval of a resolution to amend the work hours and compensation of the clerk of the juvenile court of the city of Johnson City. Is Melanie Rice here as well, too? Okay, Judge Green?
Well, my first question, and really, Judge Green, I just really wanted to get you up here and thank you for everything you do for young people in our community. For us to have our own juvenile judge and court is, you know, you're there for families, and I know the work that you do is to always try to get families back together, and that's, we're very blessed to have you there. I do understand you've been nominated for an award too with the Girl Scouts, and so I want to congratulate you on that. But you might just share with us, because the clerk position changed a number of years ago, why we're here, you know, to approve that. It's a little bit different than the way we've done it in the past, and just give you a chance to comment on that.
Sure. Well, all juvenile court clerks across the state in Tennessee are elected clerks. And we had not always, Johnson City Juvenile Court had not always had an elected clerk. It was an employee position before that. Well, we did not have an elected clerk before that. And so we were taking, there's a statute in Tennessee that seems to provide an exception, but that exception was not being followed anymore. And so that's when we first started having an elected clerk. And we had a full-time one the first term, the first 4-year term. Then we went back the second term, which we're getting ready to end, and we went back to a very, very part-time. And then this is just expanding it to a half-time position. And so this will meet our needs, we believe, for now. And so that's what we were requesting. And but I thank you for your kind words. I really, really do.
Well deserved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks.
Judge Green. The next item was 7.1.5, consider approval of 2024 Senior Center grant application with Tennessee Department of Disability and Aging. And I think we have Deb Fogel here to answer any questions or speak to that.
And Ms. Fogel, y'all do a lot of work with seniors in your program that really help, you know, more holistically than just coming over there and doing activities. So I think it'd be good to share that with the public.
We're given the opportunity this year through the state of Tennessee, through the Department of Disability and Aging. All of the senior centers within the state are given the opportunity to either submit for a minor grant or a major grant. Minor grants were $5,000 to $10,000. Major grants were $10,000 to $100,000. So we decided to submit for $100,000. There's $3 million. We have to go through a process where we have to submit the grant. We decided to submit for a new bus to replace a 15-year-old 13-passenger bus that's leaking and not able to go on long trips. Travel is probably one of the most participated events for our seniors. Gives them the opportunity to be safe and travel, not have to drive, not have to worry about all the specifics for getting there. When we give them, a lot of times we'll get the tickets for them. And so it gives us the opportunity. So this would allow us to have more people travel. And then also this new 25-passenger bus will have opportunity for storage. Right now, if we take trips, they either have to hold their packages on their lap, typically, because you can't put them in the walkway. And then also if we have somebody that's on a walker, they have to put that we can't put it in the hall, in between the seats. So this one would give us storage in the back and also overhead, so that we can have more people who are on walkers being able to travel. And hopefully it will help us to cut down on some of our charter trips that we make. We'll still use the same guidelines that the city gives us for using our buses and being within the state and other guidelines. But we're hoping that this comes through and we're able to submit for another new bus.
When will you know?
Pardon?
When will you know?
August. Probably toward the end of August, and we have to have everything completed by 2026 for the major grant.
Well, good luck.
Deb, thank you for, I have a question. Thank you for what you do for our city and our seniors. I understand you guys usually just do day trips. How many day trips do you do typically during a year?
Oh, well, golly, we did 40 day trips last year.
Wow.
And then we also do some overnight trips that we offer with some charter trips. But we're hoping to expand that. And we're hoping to, a lot of times we have a waiting list. We have travel that we've set it now that we have to, for travel, they have to come in at a certain time, they have to have a number. And now we're putting it so that you can only sign up for one trip on that first day, and then the next day you have the opportunity to sign up for all the others. Because we have many complaints about, I've tried and I can't get on and I'm on a waiting list. So, and then it's just whether that person that's going can't go, and then we pull them up from the waiting list. So hopefully this will help us to be able to do more travel. And then we right now have 2 drivers, so that would give us the opportunity to take 2 buses at the same time.
I heard you have one of your drivers retiring here soon.
Pardon?
You have one of your drivers retiring, Fontaine Charles.
Well, he's retired, yes, and we're hoping to bring him back after he gets through that 60-day period that he
Okay.
can come back. So we haven't forgotten about Fontaine.
Okay.
But we have to sort of do a little waiting, but I have one staff person, and then we have another temp driver right now.
All righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. The next item was 7.3.1, Thomas Weems Architect, change order number 2, and we have Brian Ross here to speak to that.
You want to just give us kind of an overview?
Sure.
And, of course, this is just for the architect fees, but.
Sure. So the design fees for the architect are to adjust for the actual construction cost, contract value, which is a pretty standard procedure. Majority of design contracts are structured that way. And then it's for the renovation of this chambers, which involves reorientation, incorporating a lot of new security features, features that we believe will enhance the experience of everyone in the room. And the security begins at the outside doors. We're upgrading doors, hardware. We're improving the controlled access into the room, ballistic protections, security film, those kind of things. A lot of those no one will see, but they're paramount to the motivation for this project. There are a lot of reasons that I could go on and on, but
So
Could you-
a little more comfortable seating for our.
so we hear often these chairs they're hard to get in and out of. The aisles are narrow, so this will alleviate that. We'll modernize the chairs. There'll be a more comfortable height, plenty of space, or a more acceptable standard space between the aisles. More aisles around for traffic flow, so people can get in and out and to where they need to go.
Better audio visuals as well.
Better communications all the way around. So we're working on visual display systems, audio communications. The reorientation of the room will help a lot with the line of sight. This side of the room is okay, but you know, we have the overflow seating over there, and that's a little awkward. So this will put everyone kind of in the line of sight with the board and the audiences alike.
The new orientation will go this way.
That's
right?
correct. The S will be on this end, audience over here.
When do you anticipate the start?
So that depends a little bit on the contractor's schedule, but we're ready to go. Upon approval, we'll reach out to them and let them know that we'd like to go and start talking about mobilization dates. Normally, that's 30 days or so. So mid-August would be my target for having a contractor on site
How long,
begin.
how long will the duration be?
The contract allows for 270 days. Hoping doesn't take that long, but that is what's allowed in the contract. We're aiming for maybe 7, would be
Mr.
my.
Tripp, that means all the court, the commissions, the planning commission are gonna have to meet elsewhere. What are the plans for that?
So we've been working on those plans. We've got the court to be set up to start this next Wednesday back in the police department's conference room. We're moving all of their technology back there, their projectors, so they can begin that court so we can work out any logistics with that move. The city commission will be moving and having their meetings at Langston on the 2nd floor. We've got mobile live streaming equipment, mobile recording equipment that will be located at Langston so that we can set up and have those meetings. The planning commission will probably relocate to Langston as well. And then some of the smaller groups and smaller committees that meet will still continue to use the admin conference room. That's our plan. They're going to build a wall on the back side of it that separates the vault and the construction that goes on there. So the only thing they may have to deal with would be a little noise. We're not going to be able to soundproof it, but if that becomes an issue, we'll have them schedule space at Memorial Park or at Langston as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the deal, that was all that got pulled, so now it'd be consideration of the entire consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, Ms. Laus, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy, the next item on the agenda is ordinances for first reading. 8.1, which would be ordinance number 4892-24 on first reading, an ordinance to update Title 14, Chapter 3 of the Code of the City of Johnson City, Tennessee regarding the Johnson City stormwater and repealing all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith. And it looked like we have Mr. Andy Best up here to speak to that.
Thank you. We are bringing this ordinances, or these two ordinances, the next two, before you, just because TDEC has issued a new permit to us, and we have to come into compliance with it. I've got a long slideshow here, but I was told to keep it brief, so I'm just going to hit the high points, and we can always go into it, any questions that you have, and go into there. Just this permit that Title 14 speaks about is our municipal separate storm sewer system. And basically, your sewage or your sanitary sewage is in a system, and then your stormwater is in a different system. We actually hire the same consultant with Kingsport, Elizabeth and Bristol. We all share the cost, and our consultant is working on a new manual, which we have to have done by September. And these ordinance upgrades are required. And so I'll go through those real quick. We were first issued this permit in 2003. This ordinance hasn't been touched since 2007. There were some changes that needed to be done 2014-15. However, all those changes were put on hold because that permit, the state was actually sued, so they stopped all changes, so we didn't have to make any changes. So this new permit has all those items that were kind of points to the public, kind of fleshed out, and this is the permit that we had to adopt. Let me see here. Let me go on. We've been there. We get an audit about every 3 to 5 years, and our last audit was in 2020. So again, we have to have this done by September the 1st. We got this permit in 22, and we've been working on this ordinance and our manual. So this is kind of that stormwater manual that we've had since 2007. Again, just as I said, we're working with Bristol, Elizabethton, and Kingsport. Washington County, Jonesboro, all those are wanting to see what we've got because in essence they end up adopting our manual too. So it really is a regional thing, so we don't have, not one municipality can say, hey, we're giving you a better a better deal to come here in stormwater. So we try to be consistent, at least in this area. Let's see here. Get to the high points here. And I apologize, I had a good one. As far as changes to this ordinance. So our current ordinance has a treatment of 80% TSS, or total suspended solids, the dirt in the water. And so that's where we're currently okay with that. But what the state basically did is they increased the treatment size of the water that runs off your site. So your McDonald's parking lots, your Walmarts, all that water that runs off picks up pollutants. And so the state increased that volume that has to be treated. Everything's not necessarily going up, though, because what they did is they said, hey, if you use green infrastructure, plant stuff that puts it back in the ground, you don't have to treat as much. But if you still do the old-fashioned way, you have to treat more. And so that was kind of the compromise. So the new one is based on the 1 year, 24-hour storm event. So that's about a 2.75-inch rain currently. The old one was about an inch rain that you had to treat. And then as far as industrial standard for manufactured devices, so these are just the devices that are concrete vaults that the water runs in and are just manufactured. There wasn't really any set standards, and they recommended using the New Jersey NJCAT or certification system. It's just a really good way. They do a lot of testing up there, and it's really simplified and just makes it simpler. So that's one of the changes that we have to adopt, is that we're saying what we're going to use. We currently use it anyway just because it made it easier for those devices. So obviously we have to inspect these, and we're currently good with that, but we also have to verify within 90 days of the CO now. That's in the new permit, so we have to, that's part of what we're adopting here. It also has to have a certification by the engineer. We currently make them sign it, but they actually are going to have to go out and survey and make sure everything is in compliance with the design. So that's what the SEM maintenance to conform with approved design is. Also, you have to have a professional or an engineer actually go out and certify that the stormwater control measure is still functioning correctly after 5 years. And then as far as the requirement for a special pollution abatement plan, that is no longer a requirement in this new permit. It was in the old one. It's not in the new one. Now, we kept it in there, but only as optional. So let's say we had a restaurant that decides to dump their grease down a storm drain. Then we could also, instead of just giving them a fine, we could also say, hey, you need to have a pollution abatement plan, which basically says you got to train your employees, you've got to do some, stuff like that. So we left that in there. All the other municipalities said the same thing. Hey, if you got an oil change place, we want, or something like that, we may want to still use that and have that in the toolkit, but it's not required anymore. So that's what we're doing. That's the X's to checks and the checks to X's. That's what the purpose of these changes are. There's also some definition changes. So you saw the word SEM, stormwater control measure. That used to call BMP, best management practice, but the state changed it. There used to be impaired streams, but now they're called streams with unavailable parameters. So there's lots of little changes like that we had to change in our ordinance to bring them up to compliance. Again, just clarifying some of this stuff, terminology, and we also, in this, there's covenants in the old document, so you had to do covenants. We're codifying that now to say you have to maintain your devices, so they don't have to do covenants to make it easier to be in compliance. So in other words, we'll just have ordinance will enforce that you maintain your BMP versus a covenant. Now, we'll still record those and put those on there, but that's kind of to make it simpler for the development community. Part of the reason why we went that way is we found that if you didn't get everybody who had an interest in the property to sign, it wasn't really legal. So that's why we want to do it with ordinance versus with covenant.
And these are like the aqua swirls and the detention basins? and
Yes,
the
just how to
maintenance.
maintain them.
Right, okay.
And so what we're also doing is we've developed a owner's manual. So in other words, us engineers and developers know how to maintain a device, but you know, the manager for McDonald's may not. And so we've developed a manual to give to those people. This is how you maintain what you've got, whether it's a pond or a device. So, and that's kind of the direction that
Do we do any inspections of those private ponds or detention basins?
yes.
If we're giving them guidelines, then what, annually we inspect one? or-
We're required to do it once every 5 years. We're probably doing a little bit more than that just because of education. They're required to give us the information yearly, so, yes. So to answer your question, yes, we're doing more than once every 5 years.
Yeah, we have a number of them that can really kind of turn into garbage pits almost with all the trash that flies into them. and
Correct.
they
And
don't
those
look
were all
good.
the existing ones. We
Yeah.
didn't have any ordinance. This one actually any existing, we can get them to bring it up to the latest standard.
Now, this ordinance also puts in stipulations for streams with vegetation buffers too, correct?
Yes, I've got a section on that. Let me get to that one.
Not to get ahead of you. but-
No. And these are just the different volumes when I talked about different volumes. So if you keep all the water on site, you're like 1 inch. Bioretention area is 1.25. So as you can see, if you do more green stuff, you have less to treat. And then to the buffers, so this is what you're asking about on the
Yes, sir.
buffers?
Yes, sir.
Currently, our buffer width is 25 feet, and it's to be left alone. The state upped that in that last permit. They got stopped to 30 and 60 feet. This one is 30 and 60 feet. However, there's been some changes. So in the next one, it says stream averaging, so our current's 25 feet. Now you have to do 30 or 60 depending upon the stream. If it's got parameters, available parameters, or if it's not impaired, then it's 30. If it is impaired, you have to go to 60. Now, the state already has this with their construction general permit, erosion prevention sediment control permit. They already require 30 and 60. But yes, the new buffers have went to 30 and 60. So
That's
this,
for streams, right?
yes, for streams,
And what
yes.
about just wetlands?
Wetlands, it's just, no, we don't have that necessarily for wetlands. It does only calls out blue line streams. So if it's not a stream, wetland would have to go whatever the core and
And that's because streams are connected.
yes.
Wetlands aren't necessarily connected to.
A wetland could be part of a stream, but it
Okay.
could be its own, but a lot of times they are connected to a stream.
But you just can't go in and cut in a wetland.
Correct. Yeah, this does not address that. But as you can see, you have to have a minimum of 30 feet, so you can make your outer zones, you could average it, so you can still get down to 30 even in the 60. And again, there's just another example of what you could do as far as the 30 is closer. Now, let me go back to this slide. So the vegetative buffer and maintenance rules, before at 25 feet, you couldn't touch it. Now they can actually be mowed and maintained and landscaped. So they have grown, but they can be more of an asset. They don't have to just be wild and grown up. They have to have trees. That's what they really want up close is trees and good canopy, but they can still be mowed, maintained, and landscaped. And we allowed that. That wasn't necessarily in there. The state said you could, so we all said, well, yes, that's what we want to do. And we also allow paths in that area as well. And then again, that you just have allowed uses and we have more uses than we did in our current permit, or current ordinance, excuse me. And again, that you just, so it used to be dense, unmanaged, now it can be trees and grasses, mulches, and you can manage it, so you can mow it. So again, I know that's been an issue for a lot of people. So it's not as bad as it on when you just hear it's going from 25 to 30 to 60. It is, but now it can be more manageable. So, and then that's just, again, just more buffer. So we do have to adopt the stormwater ordinance by September 1st to remain in compliance. We are in the, we hope to get the water quality SCM manual back in this final draft, and we hope to get that before you all too for adoption. It's just, it's adopted by the ordinance, but obviously we won't adopt it until we bring it before commission. And then the SCM maintenance owner guide, That's just fall of this fall that we hope to roll that out just for people to use. Again, it's not a requirement of the permit, but it's just something we've been working on. And then we'll have some training on this in the fall.
Just, TDEC's the regulatory body, is that correct?
Correct.
And do they have to authorize or okay this before it comes back to us?
So we are already under the permit, and they give you steps. So what, basically TDEC gets the permit from the EPA, and then they turn around and say, okay, you smaller cities, you can come in under our umbrella. And so we came under their umbrella in '22, and this was the first step. You had a year to get this all implemented.
I imagine there's some budget impact with implementing the new standards.
The new permit, we have to do more training and education, but we don't, as part of this slide, we don't, it's not on that one, but we don't foresee that this is going to be that big of an impact to development because, again, in our old ordinance, we required, or manual, we required what they call channel protection, which is treating the 2.75-year storm. So we don't see that the stuff's going to get any bigger. It should be about the same. So we're not going to see that it's going to be, they'll just have to do it a little bit different.
And one of the things, the question I've got, just for clarification, is these rules come from TDEC based on the new permit that was issued. These aren't rules that we're adjusting
No.
for our community. This is what everyone under this permit has to follow, these guidelines that TDEC hands down, right?
Correct. There's several municipalities, I think that's on the first slide here in Northeast
right.
Tennessee that fall under it, so. Any questions?
Thank you.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Ms. Laus, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is ordinance number 4893-24 for first reading. An ordinance to update Title 18, Chapter 8 of the Code of the City of Johnson City, Tennessee regarding the Johnson City Erosion and Sediment Control Ordinance and repealing all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith. Mr. Best.
So this is in regards to, think of during construction, silt fence, that type of stuff. And these are minimal changes, basically definition. So the biggest changes to here are, again, streams used to be called impaired, now they're considered with unavailable parameters. And it just points to the current construction general permit of the state. So currently, if you want to develop a site over an acre, you go to TDEC. They'll issue you a notice of coverage under this construction general permit. And so basically, all we're doing is updating that to point to the current construction general permit with the state.
Correct.
And then we also are adding a potential to require a performance bond. So if we've got we've had this in this city, and you've probably seen over the years, a big construction site that just goes dormant for years. So some of these big subdivisions, that was kind of our idea. We didn't have any way to charge them. We're going to have a performance bond, and so that way, if somebody just walks away, for the big ones, not for everything, we just want to have the ability to say, wait a minute, this guy or developer walks away or has a history of not finishing their sites. We're going to call it out so we can at least stabilize and get it grassed. So that's also what's been added to here. It's not a requirement, it's just available. So, but definitions are the biggest one, changing from Director of Public Works to City Manager or their designee, and then Construction General Permit, and then adding SEM, Stormwater Control Measure versus BMP. And so those are, in essence, it as far as adding to this ordinance. Very minor, other than the performance bond.
I'm going to move for approval.
Second.
All right. Ms. Laus, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor, if I could, there was one other thing I meant to pull on the consent agenda. We've already passed it, but I would like to ask, and we can do it at the end of the meeting, but April Norris to talk about the feasibility study on the swimming pool. If we could do that, and we'll do it at the end. I apologize, I was going to pull it at the time, but it's already passed. So.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
The next item is ordinances for third reading. Item number 9.1, ordinance 4884-24, third reading, third and final. An ordinance conveying a certain parcel of property owned by the City of Johnson City, Tennessee, to the Bluff City Volunteer Fire Department at parcel 112-053.20 in Sullivan County, Tennessee. And we have Director Witherspoon with us if you have any questions, or to tell us if there have been any changes.
No changes? All right.
Move approval.
Second.
All right. Ms. Laus, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
The next item is ordinance 4887-24, third reading and third and final reading. An ordinance to amend the zoning map of the City of Johnson City, Tennessee by changing from I-1 Light Industrial District to B4 Planned Arterial Business District for property located at 0 Wayfield Drive. And we have Ms. Putney with us.
There's been no changes.
Move approval.
Second.
All right. Ms. Laus, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor, your next item is ordinance 4889-24, third and final reading. An ordinance providing for the conveyance of a certain parcel of real property located on Lakeview Drive in the town of Unicoi, Tennessee, and owned by the City of Johnson City, Tennessee, to Roger and Sharon Gardner, and Assistant City Manager Willis is present to discuss that.
No changes since second reading.
Move for approval.
Second.
Ms. Laus, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes. All right.
Your next item is 10.1, annexation, owner consent annexation. It's the Hicks annexation. And this is to consider a request to proceed with the annexation of approximately 7.07 acres along Gray Station Road. And Ms. Putney is with us again.
Vice Mayor Murphy and Commissioners, thank you for having me for this agenda item. It's just a request to proceed on a piece of property on Gray Station Road that's just north of 7 acres. As I know you guys love this flow chart, so I kept it in the PowerPoint. We are at the very first step with the request to proceed. If it is approved, it will go to Planning Commission August 13th if we get the plan of services back in a timely manner, which is what we were aiming for. And then first reading back to the commission would be September 5th with subsequent meetings following the 19th and October 3rd for the final readings. The request is, like I previously stated, 7.07 acres off of Gray Station Road. It is what we see in red on your screen. It is contiguous to the city limits of a B5 zoning. The applicant will be seeking a zoning assignment of RP2 for what we see in red, along with this parcel as well. That will be a separate request, but we will be taking it simultaneously for RP2 as well. Once it's annexed, a concept plan will be required for approval for the development. This is just some aerial view of what it looks like right now with city zoning. So as I previously stated, it's bordering B5 commercial. In the county, it is currently zoned A1 agricultural while also bordering some residential. Following the request to proceed, if the commission directs us to, we would reach out to other departments and get the plan of services together, which will be presented for Planning Commission recommendation, and then back to you guys in, I believe it was in September for that first reading. And we've had some preliminary meetings with departments, so we have an idea of what those plan of services would look like. So it's just getting that formal request to them. Staff recommends approval to request to proceed for the annexation since the request is bordering city limits and it's within our urban growth boundary and service area.
And at this point, the question we're being asked is, do we want to go down this road?
Correct.
The road, the all the zoning assignments, annexations another day, so I would move approval.
Second.
All right. Ms. Laus, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if it would be appropriate, I can use the city manager's report to have Director Norris to come up and give you an update on the aquatic study.
Good evening, Commissioners, Vice Mayor Murphy, and rest of the Commissioners. Thanks for having me come up to explain what this aquatics feasibility study means for the community moving forward. So what we hope to gain from this study is just an understanding of where we are and where we need to go in the future. When we completed our comprehensive Parks and Recreation Master Plan several months ago, you guys approved that for us. That was the overwhelming response that we received, and that was one of our short-term goals, was to go forward with this aquatics feasibility study and then move into where we go from there with what this tells us. So I think that this study should show us where our current facilities currently lie in their age and the shape that they're in, and our demographics and what the desire is for a competitive nature, not and to the recreational standpoint. A lot of people we needed more competitive swimming, we needed a bigger recreational pool. So I think that this will show the city's desire to, make a plan for future. And this is just the starting point for that.
Does this include any consideration for school use and things of that nature? So
It will. It'll take all that into account. We will engage the school system when we embark on this, of course, because they are a big user of Freedom Hall Pool. That's where they hold swim meets, and the Barracuda Swim Club also uses that facility. So,
see, our Legion Street pool was opened in about 1961, I think.
Yes.
Somewhere
Yeah.
in that neighborhood.
and I mean, honestly, with the last 2 years, we've made significant, repairs and took a little bit more time each year when we brought that up. And I think for certain it's not losing as much water as it did a few years ago. However, knowing its age, and Freedom Hall is also showing its age, so it's a really good time to kind of take a good look at that and, how much time do we have left, and help us to prepare for that as we move into that.
But once a feasibility study is complete, we have to look at the big picture and where funding comes from.
Certainly. So ideally, this is step one. You move into that. So when you do your feasibility study, it's really one of those things that says, here's kind of what you need to prepare for. And you have a good 5 to 10 years from that point to be able to look at how do we fit this into the big scheme of things, and where does it fit into CIP and compare to everything else. Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
That's all that's on the agenda. That's all I have.
All right. Well, let's see if there are any closing remarks. Commissioner Wise?
No, sir.
Commissioner Hunter?
Just early voting's still going on, so make sure your voice is heard.
Please vote. It's very important.